So you're taking sales calls or managing projects when there's either air raid sirens going off or when members of the staff are running to a bomb shelter.
I understand it sounds absolutely crazy for foreigners, and it would have sounded absolutely crazy for me if I wouldn't have experienced that.
Welcome to Video MBA, the podcast where we dive deep into the dynamic world of video production and explore the art and business behind the lens.
Today on the Video MBA podcast, where we interview the world's leading video production company owners, another super treat here as we take you inside a war zone. Believe it or not, thanks to Elon Musk's Starlink, high-end video is still being produced for an international clientele. We're heading to Lviv, Ukraine, and a conversation with Tim Aleksandronets, founder of Blue Carrot Productions. Tim shares his experience running a production business in the midst of a war zone. We talked about managing a remote team, handling regular power blackouts, and even taking shelter during missile attacks. Tim's journey provides a unique perspective on the war's ripple effects in daily life and business operations. This interview provides a captivating narrative of running a video production business under some, challenging circumstances. Blue Carrot Productions stands as a testament to the industry's resilience, adaptability, and the power of creative expression. And you should serve as an inspiration for aspiring video producers and professionals anywhere navigating the dynamic landscape of video production. If you can do it in war-torn Ukraine, I think you can do it pretty much anywhere. Is that fair? Well, let's find out. And so without further ado, I bring you Tim Aleksandronets. I'm here with Tim Aleksandronets. Tim, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, everyone who is listening to us.
Tim, first of all, you're in a war zone at the moment. You know, you're in Western Ukraine. You're in Lviv, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So even though you're in the western part of Ukraine, which at least geographically away from the active front lines, but you're still very much in a danger zone. Let's start there. What's it like to run a production business in a war zone?
A couple of years ago, I visited my classmate in Israel, and there were, they have a war that have different intensity over time. So sometimes they have missile attacks, and I was kind of apprehensive to go there because of that fact. And now here I am at 2022, full-scale war started, because we have had war even before, but it was very localized on the east of the country, and it's almost 1 year and a half when this war is full scale, and it's definitely affects living and business, because first of all, everyone are united to withstand this challenge, and also to work to support our economy. Someone goes to military, that definitely affects business, because part of the labor is on the front lines. Part of the labor has migrated to other countries. That has not affected our industry as much as some other traditional industries like construction or others, because in video production, people can work remotely. But basically, things have changed. And also, in particular, last winter, we had a lot of missile attacks that Russia wanted to make an electricity blackout in Ukraine. And that was challenging because in most of the country, we had blackouts for a couple of hours per day. So it could be 4 hours with electricity, then 4 hours without electricity, and then 4 hours with electricity. And then, first of all, we realized that internet is dependent on electricity, and whole our work is dependent on electricity. So we basically, as well as other businesses, we equipped our office with electrical generator, and we also installed Starlink internet. So basically we became kind of independent of the electricity. And then, and there is also the factor of missile attacks. But as you correctly mentioned, we are on the west part of the Ukraine, so it's fortunately a little bit safer here. So, it's like, I'm afraid to say this, but you're kind of like getting used to this kind of constant threat. Some like with years, people started to understand how to distinguish where there is a real threat and when the threat is like really small. So sometimes we go to bomb shelters. Sometimes like we understand that the risk is very small because like missile attack alarm switches on each time. For example, one of the airplanes takes off, and just in case, because this plane might carry a weapon that can reach our region. But everyone knows that like the chances that this specific plane will release it is relatively small. So you kind of like, sometimes you are on a call with the client speaking about video production, and they hear air alarm. So
that's happened.
Yeah, that's happened. I understand it sounds absolutely crazy for foreigners, and it would have sound absolutely crazy for me if I wouldn't have experienced that. But for us, it's like, okay, we are just muting our microphones not to distract too much from the business.
So you're taking sales calls or managing projects when there's either air raid sirens going off or when members of the staff are running to a bomb shelter.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. And especially in the very beginning of the war, when we hadn't have so much experience and didn't understand how to distinguish when there is a real threat and when there is a very small threat. So one of our clients was hiring our team for building a series of different explainers. And he was aware of the fact that we have these missile attacks. And he wrote us an email. And the theme of this email was illustrator at a bomb shelter. And he was saying like, guys, I understand what's happening. I know that one of your people is currently in a bomb shelter because that was what was communicated by our producer. We had some delays on this project. And this client, he just proposed us just to pay all the money he budgeted for this project and to take this project for another team from another country. So it was kind of very supportive for us. But nevertheless, we found a way to produce what we committed to, even in the bomb shelters, even with internet shortages. We did that, and that was managed. But it was very supportive from them, and really appreciated that.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How are you able to convince customers in other countries around the world, because you are a global company? How are you able to sort of convince them that Blue Carrot is the studio to hire, given the circumstances that you're in?
Well, frankly speaking, I haven't felt that these circumstances is a huge factor in our business, because in the end of the day, part of our team is abroad in Europe, because some people migrated and they work completely remotely. And then there is an understanding that even those who are in Ukraine, they continue working. They have all the facilities and everything. And basically, it's like only in our mind that like war is happening, but like still lives go on. And for example, even when it was Second World War, like people said that like Nazi were coming, then Soviets were coming, but enterprises were working, and business didn't change like too much during this period. So answering your question, I haven't felt that this is too much of a factor. It's probably also because it could have been a factor for IT industry because they have large projects with huge risks, that if the team does not deliver or does not support a solution, whole enterprise in the United States or in Canada can stop, or logistics company who control like hundreds of vessels, for example, can stop. So it's unbearable risk. But in our case, I think explainer video is kind of short project which is being completed within like 6 weeks, and that's a bearable risk even if something is going on like war. And additionally, people who work with us, part of people, at least for sure, I know that they understand that they're supporting Ukraine in this way because they paying us, we paying taxes, we hire people, so it's part of the economy, and economy is a very huge factor at war against Russia.
What is Blue Carrot's value proposition? And I'm not sure if that's a term that you're as familiar with as we are over here in the West, but what is it about Blue Carrot that distinguishes itself from other explainer video companies out there?
Yeah, that's a very good question because there are a lot of similar studios on the market, all creating animations or video productions. So how do you stand out, right? For us, the answer is we have different value propositions in different niches. For example, inside the explainer videos market, we do work a lot with apps, software solution, showing user interfaces, explaining how complicated apps work. And this is a sphere where we have a lot of experience and we kind of stand out, and we try to communicate that if you have an IT solution, if you have an app, we know how to handle this because we created like dozens of videos in this specific niche. There's one example. Another example of niche is where we focus and we specialize is e-learning. We do videos for learning. More than that, we are capable of creating curriculum, learning design, instructional design, and basically produce videos. So not only video production, but also we do what is scripting in marketing videos, like learning design and learning videos. That's another niche.
Now, are you getting most of your work direct from the foreign companies, or do you get a lot of your work through third parties, like agencies?
I think more work comes from direct customers. We work with really different companies like startups, but also with Fortune 500 companies and NGOs. Mm-hmm. There's quite a big segment on the West that don't see any hassles in working with overseas company, and a lot of companies have experience working with Eastern Europe, with Ukraine in particular, and they understand the value that they can get, like better costs with the same, I call it like European eye in art, right? So it's kind of on the same paradigm of mentality in art. So in other words, a little bit more for the same money you can get. Not a little bit, but because we do work also with not only with agencies, but with studios. For example, some studios, they work in the United States or in Canada or in Europe, and they specialize in live productions. And sometimes clients ask them to create animations, and they hire us for creating animations. And even for animated studios, while no one is listening to us, I can say that some animation studios are also like hiring us to completing some products. if they are out of capacity, if they need better costs, if they don't know certain technique, for example, 3D or 2D, like different for different studios, they hire us.
Got it. I want to talk a little bit about how you're able to sort of manage and motivate and your team and grow the business in just a second. But yeah, how did you find yourself in video production? How did you get into it at first? Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was unexpected because I was studying at Polytechnical University, and I was obtaining a master's degree in electrical engineering, and I met there my friend and group mate who was studying also on electrical engineering faculty, and he was jumping with a parachute. He broke his leg, and in hospital he hadn't had much to do other than like having a computer. And then he tried to open, like to dive into computer graphics. He found Adobe After Effects, started to experiment, and kind of obtained skills of motion designer, basic skills. And then it was me who always been more a commercial oriented person, so more client oriented person, and we always wanted to do something together, something rather ambitious. So we decided why not to, like, he's able to animate something, I'm able kind of sell something. So we decided why not to. And we registered on freelancer.com platform. I think it still exists. And we found a client because we bid like super cheap, like $50 per minute of completed video. And like we were students, and it still was some money, like 5 minutes of work. And for these days, for young years, and for Ukraine, it was like some money, some small, but. And then we realized that motion graphic skills is not enough. You also need to illustrate. And then we were looking for illustrator. So we found someone bad. They produced bad illustrations. Our client fired us, and end of story. But then boom, in a couple of weeks, he comes back and says that another company that he hired, another freelancer that he hired from India, he had some family troubles. I think some loss in family, like grandmother or something. And he just asked, okay, guys, if you want, I can give you a second chance. So we hired another artist. This one was better. And Alex, my partner, he animated the stuff, and we accomplished our first project. So this is how it began.
Amazing. How did you go from those sort of early days, Tim, to where you are today? Because Blue Carrot you've got some overhead now. You've got some costs that you've got to cover. That's just more than you and your partner.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of sweat, persistent work, and unsatisfied moments. Basically, what it takes, I think, in every business to reach some kind of goals that you set for yourself. But I think we might have it edited.
Yeah. I'll re-ask the question. How is it that you've gone from those early days of $50 projects now to projects that are tens of thousands of dollars? How were you able to establish yourself where you could charge those kinds of prices?
Well, there were multiple years of sweat and tears. a lot of work done, like basically doing things, getting results, doing things, failing, doing things again. Probably one of our strengths were ability to push at the same spot for a lot of years. And then, like, with years, some experience came, portfolio was created, some network of clients were established, and today we are where we are.
And how is it that you're getting clients today? Could you briefly give me an overview about sort of the techniques you're using to find clients, even though you're in Ukraine?
Yeah, first of all, and this would be definitely advice for everyone who wants to start an agency, it's important to mix these two components, commercial side and creative side. And in our case, my partner Alex was and is currently responsible for the production part, for creative part, as we call it in videos. And me is responsible for marketing, sales, finances, like strategy. Kind of, for some people, boring things, but they are essential if you want to establish yourself not just as a cool video guy, but also as a business. So I always answer this question as we are using all the means that exist. We do like search engine marketing, like we release blog articles. We find clients, we search for clients on LinkedIn. We do email outreach campaigns. We test different approaches. We are present on different platforms like Upwork. We do bidding on Upwork still. There are some good projects for us. We are registered at different catalogs that people can find us and contact us. Yeah, so basically we are working in all directions of marketing.
Got it. So, Tim, how do you manage your team? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that? And not just manage, but continue to motivate your team, to work together cohesively on these various projects that you do?
When I was working, like my first years in Korea, I was under impression that I can influence motivation of my team very extensively. But my current experience says that there is only a certain part of motivation that you can kind of adjust for your team. But the core motivation is already inside them. And basically, I try to hire people who are motivated to work to achieve some professional and personal goals with us, and then do my best to adjust this small part of motivation that I can influence. And this is not something I do like consciously and purposefully, but it's just a way of management or leadership, if you want to call it like that. We do have very results-oriented culture. We don't kind of like track hours or force people to do some unnecessary reports or something like this. As long as a person achieves their goals, and goals are always reasonable, we encourage such person. We work with such person. We don't over control. We try to find a mixture between what person wants and what person needs to do. And it's possible, even in projects that are very limited in terms of creativity, for example, there also might be some space for creative things. Like, for example, this is how we started to do traditional animation a lot of years ago. It was just a simple request from a client to create, I think, whiteboard video. And then we thought, okay, we don't want to create another whiteboard video. We want to create something more interesting, something more creative. Let's just invest our resources, invest our budgets, and create whatever team wants. And this is how they created a traditionally animated video. And like client was like, we proposed, okay, do you want to pay us for a small product, but we will create you a huge product? And of course, the client was happy and the team was very happy as well. And this project gave us a robust boost in marketing because it was very nice. So it's kind of a win-win-win story. So we're always trying to find this type of stories for every people working in all departments so they can achieve what they really want by achieving company goals.
That's a great way to align everybody. You've touched on it a little bit, but let's get into it a little bit more. If you had some advice for people wanting to get into video production, these could be students, maybe they're already newcomers in the business, or maybe they're old, salty veterans already. But what advice do you have for those wanting to get into and grow their video production business?
I think video production is an excellent sphere to work in. It enables you to work remotely, which is a factor. It enables you to express your creativity, to create something. And this is always possible because creativity is a tool for achieving business goals. I mean, the right type of creativity, not the type of creativity when person wants just to have some self-expression. But this is also something that you can have in video production if it's not at least contradicts with what client wants. So it's ability to work remotely if it's animated production, right? Of course, if it's video shooting, that it assumes that you should be available locally or at least eager to travel. Then this is, as I said, it's your like creativity. You're kind of like little Guy Ritchie, and you can direct things. You can create small worlds, characters, interconnection between scenes. Like it's very interesting. And then I also would advise to look at the AI field. We do use it a lot in some learning projects. Like, for example, when you have a talking head video series, instead of shooting a professor at location, we do create a AI-generated synthetic avatar that talks to audience, and this is faster, cheaper, and the learning outcomes are the same for audience, which was proved by university study that was conducted by one of our partners, Daniel, who pursues his PhD program at University of London. So they did a focus group, and they used AI generated avatar versus normal talking head professor. And in terms of learning goals, there were no difference in the outcomes. So we do leverage AI. I think everyone should do it. It does not substitute a lot. It does not like change everything drastically, but this is something that can give you additional advantage when it comes to cost-effective solutions that are needed on the market. Also, I would suggest for Canadian and American companies to look towards outsourcing of some productions, because when they need to create animations and they cannot do it, or when they are out of capacity, they can hire companies from Eastern Europe or some other regions with lower salaries, but with kind of similar mindset, and provide better value for their end clients.
So what I heard there, just to summarize, you have to be creative to start with, and then you have to have this ability to somehow remove yourself from the creativity and adopt a business mindset. You have to be open to sending project work out if you don't have those skill sets in house. And those are terrific ideas. What about things like, going out and buying a bunch of camera gear? Do you think that's necessary when at the very start? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Buying a bunch of cameras, right?
Let me rephrase the question. So, do you think it's necessary for those getting into video production to go out and invest a lot of money into things like cameras, sophisticated computer systems, studio rentals, and all those sort of things? Do you think that's necessary at first?
No, I totally don't think so, because if you really need an expensive camera, you can rent an expensive camera and it will be cheaper, and you will not lose money because you buy a camera, then it becomes older and like cheaper. You will not sell it for the same price that you bought it. And in case you would like to shift focus, for example, you started live production and then you realized that your heart wants to create animations, then you don't need this camera. So I would rather be careful and choosing safe strategies. Like you'll always have a chance to buy an expensive camera, but to sell an expensive camera is much harder.
That's for sure. Tim, you've been great. Where can listeners find Blue Carrot online? How can they find a little bit more about you and your company?
Oh, it's very simple. They can just Google Blue Carrot and we will be there, or it's website bluecarrot.io.
Great. Well, Tim, thank you very much for taking the time. It's obviously 9-10 hours ahead of where I'm at right now, and so it's in the evening. Really appreciate it, and good luck to you and Blue Carrot in the future, and keep crushing it out there.
Yeah, Paul, and I also want to take a minute and appreciate your work, because it's very important to motivate other people who work in the industry, show them examples, educate them. If anyone has any questions, they can send it to me at email team@bluecarrot.io. I'll be glad to answer. So this is the great thing that you're doing for the industry. I love to be a part of it. I'm not too skilled audio podcaster, but this is probably was my second in life or something like that. But it's amazing experience, and thank you so much for that.
Thanks again, Tim.